Hello, this is Leonard Garrison, Associate Professor of Flute at the University of Idaho. And I'd like to tell you about this wonderful work, Offertoire, or Offertoire, by Johannes Donjon. One can perform this piece for a church offertory, as its title suggests, or for a solo festival. The accompaniment is originally for harmonium or small organ, but is usually played on piano. Rated level G by the National Flute Association and available in collections such as Robert Cavalli's 24 short concert pieces, it is a little more advanced than the same composer's Pan Pastoral No. 1, especially in its demands for a full singing tone in the flute's low register and for breath control in long phrases. Johannes Donjon, who lived from 1839 to 1912, whose name means the keep or a tower of a castle in French, was principal flutist of the Paris Opera Orchestra and a student of Jean-Louis Toulouse, who lived from 1786 through 1865. Toulouse was a long-time professor at the Paris Conservatory in the days before the modern Böhm flute was adopted there. Along with the popular Offertoire and Pan Pastoral, Donjon wrote very many flute pieces, which we can enjoy today. The following table summarizes the form of the work. It is in a rondo form with 3 statements of the main opening theme, the A section. These all come in the key of F major. The second section of the work is in C major, and after this repeat of the A, another section comes in D minor, and then through B flat major, and back to our opening theme in F major. Throughout this piece, Donjon uses a figure that is standard in classical music from the Baroque to the present, the appoggiatura. That's an Italian word meaning a dissonant note, or a note that doesn't belong in the chord, which resolves stepwise. And it's a sigh figure. You should really be expressive on the top note, or the first note of the appoggiatura, and then relax to the second note, make a taper to the second note. So more vibrato on the first note, less vibrato on the second note. There is a sense of tension and release on an appoggiatura. Practice this in measures 4, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16. It's all over the place in this piece. Avoid going flat in the taper by raising your head. At the beginning, the metronome indication of quarter equals 72 is too fast for a contemplative solo. I prefer quarter equals 50. Thinking ahead to the last section of the piece, play enough to project over an accompaniment, but not too loud, because we're marked piano at the opening. Later on, this same theme comes back forte, so you have to plan ahead for that. Make a little crescendo throughout the pickups into the downbeat. Keep spinning your tone forward into measure 2. Careful not to go flat on the low C at the end of this phrase, and keep the angle and the speed of the air up. To prepare for the fingering of the low C, play the previous note F without the pinky. Use the same technique in measure 3, no pinky on the B flat before the low C sharp. Starting with the pickup to measure 3, the second phrase has heightened expression. Play freely to show the chromatic inflections. Lengthen perhaps the C sharp on beat 2 and the C natural on beat 3. Take a big breath in measure 4 after the E, as you must go into the downbeat of measure 7 before breathing again. Do not breathe after the low C in measure 6, as there is a slur here, and the phrase continues. In fact, crescendo through the C and C sharp. Again, play freely in measure 7, lengthening the C on beat 3. Trill only once on the low E and carry the D sharp through into beat 4. Now let's hear myself, Leonard Garrison, flutist, and my wonderful colleague, Roger McVeigh, pianist, playing measures 1 through 8. Measure 9 is marked più mosso, or faster. An appropriate tempo here is quarter equals 66. Many flutists go horrendously sharp in measures 9 and 13, so practice with a tuner. Play the high E's without the right hand pinky. Keep the lips relaxed and be careful not to overblow. Although the line descends in measure 9, 11, and 13, all of these bars crescendo into the appoggiatura in the following bar. See. In measure 14 and 15, play the turns as 32nd notes on the end of the beat, and the lower note of the turn in measure 15 is a D natural. Now let's hear a performance of measures 9 through 16. In the pickup to measure 17, the main theme returns, and it's almost the same as the beginning with one difference, and that is measure 23. It is neither necessary nor desirable to play the second beat of this measure in time. The accompanist can wait for you to arrive on beat 3. This flourish is basically a G minor chord. G, B flat, and D, and is easily fingered using the thumb B flat. Organize the 15 notes into groups of 5, 4, and 6, stretching the turn around the B flat at the top. In beat 3, play the turn on the and play D sharp, carried through from the previous beat. Now let's hear a performance of measures 17 through 24. An effective tempo for the agitato section, starting in measure 24, is quarter equals 84. Use a faster vibrato to reflect the change of mood. Sustain through the descending lines and open the tone for the low register. Follow the dramatic dynamics as indicated. Carefully practice the large slurred intervals, coordinating the embouchure with finger changes. Plan breaths so they don't stop the momentum. I take breaths only after the B flat in measure 25, at the end of 27, and between the A's in measure 30, and after the low D in 31. It is not clear whether the marking dolce più lento, or sweetly and slower, in measure 31 applies only to this measure or to the following section. Take time in measure 31. The B flat major section, which follows, is less agitated than the previous part, but needs more motion than the main tempo. So quarter equals 76 is appropriate here. In measure 34, the F sharp needs a bright sound, while the G flat needs a more covered color, as these two notes have different functions. There is always a reason for a composer to write the same enharmonic note in differing ways, so an interpretation must reflect this difference. Stretch the ends of measures 35 and 39. So now let's hear our performance of measures 24 through 39. The final return of the main theme at the pickup to measure 40, unlike its prior appearances, begins forte, so really sing. In measure 46, play the turn as a triplet with a D-sharp lower neighbor. The piece ends with a cadenza, so vary the pacing. Organize the runs into small groupings of 3s, 4s, and 5s. At first, practice one group at a time, going into the first note of the next group. For example, play A, B flat, A. Then put the groups together. Use the thumb B flat fingering. Stretch the beginning of the first descending F major scale and then plummet to the bottom. The upwards run is a dominant seventh chord on C, C, E, G, B flat. After the accented notes, start slowly and gradually accelerando. In the last line, breathe after the fermata A, not before it, even though one needs to break a slur. There is a colorful chord in the middle of the trill, so crescendo to the third beat of that bar before making a gorgeous diminuendo to the high F. Now let's listen to measures 40 through 48. Good luck or bonne chance.